In April 1981, Glenna Sue Sharp packed up her life and moved her 5 children to Keddie, California, a tiny mountain town tucked deep in the Sierra Nevadas. Recently divorced and trying to rebuild, she rented Cabin 28, a worn but sturdy wooden structure in a cluster of old railroad houses that had been converted into low-income rentals. Sue was kind, quiet, determined. She kept to herself, worked odd jobs, and wanted peace for her kids, especially her teenage daughter Tina, and sons Rick, Greg, and John, who was 15 and headstrong, already stepping into a fatherly role. But Keddie wasn't as peaceful as it looked. There were whispers of criminal drifters squatting in the woods, of people who disappeared, and of neighbors with too many secrets. On the night of April 11, 1981, Sue sat in Cabin 28 with her daughter Tina and her son John, who had brought over his friend Dana Wingate to stay the night. The younger boys, Greg and Rick, were asleep in the back room along with their friend Justin, a boy from next door. Nothing seemed out of place. Until the morning came. On April 12, 1981, at 7:45 a.m., Sue's teenage daughter Sheila, who had spent the night at a neighbor's, returned home to a nightmare. The front door of Cabin 28 was ajar. Inside, the living room was soaked in blood. Her mother, Sue, was sprawled out on the floor, gagged with a blue bandana and white tape, hands and feet bound with electrical cords. Her throat had been slashed so violently she was nearly decapitated. Next to her lay the bodies of her brother John and his friend Dana. Both had been beaten with a hammer and a rifle but, tied up, and left to die. There was no sign of forced entry. No one had called for help. And the strangest part? 3 young boys were found in the next room, alive and unharmed. Rick, Greg, and Justin had slept through the entire thing. Or so they claimed. And Tina? She was gone. Vanished. The town of Keddie descended into chaos. Plumas County Sheriff's deputies, ill-equipped for something so brutal, fumbled the investigation from the start. Evidence was contaminated. Interviews were delayed. Suspects weren't properly interrogated. But theories quickly spiraled. One claimed the murders were a targeted hit on Sue, someone she knew, maybe a lover or neighbor. Another suggested Dana had crossed the wrong man hitchhiking to Keddie that night. But it was Justin's testimony, Rick and Greg's friend, that made everything more horrifying. Justin said he saw it. He told police he'd woken up in the night and peeked through the bedroom door. In the living room, 2 men stood over Sue and John. One had long hair and sunglasses. The other wore a jacket and held a hammer. He said they argued. Sue begged. The hammer rose. Then he ran back to bed. No one believed him, at least, not enough. But he even drew pictures. The 2 men's faces bore a chilling resemblance to 2 real-life neighbors, Martin Smart, a known abuser and manipulator, and his friend Beau Bubaid, a convicted felon with ties to organized crime. Martin's wife had just left him after a fight about Sue Sharp. And Martin? He allegedly confessed to a therapist, but nothing was done. Meanwhile, Tina was still missing. For 3 years, the case went cold. Until a human skull was found 80 miles away, in the woods near Feather Falls. Dental records confirmed it was Tina Sharp. Someone had taken her from the crime scene and disposed of her like garbage. The cabin was bulldozed in 2004, years after it stood, abandoned, as a grim tourist site for armchair sleuths and ghost chasers. But nothing truly ended. In the 2010s, new sheriffs reopened the case. DNA evidence was retested. And suddenly, things made sense. A hammer was recovered from a nearby pond. It matched the wounds. A confession letter, allegedly written by Martin Smart, resurfaced. In it, he said, "I've paid the price for your love. I've killed 3 people. I have to pay for my sins." But Martin was dead by then. So was Beau. No arrests were made. No justice was served. Today, the case remains officially unsolved. Locals say the woods around the old Keddie site still feel wrong. Cold. People report hearing a girl's voice calling for help, or seeing a shadow walk along the ridge near where Tina's remains were found. And inside what's left of Cabin 28's foundation, some swear they hear hammer blows echo in the silence of night. Not from the past. But from something still waiting, unfinished.